Marcus Mayor live from New York. I think I have to constantly tell you where now because we move around so much. This is just our second night in New York. We were in Florida earlier. And earlier today, we were in Staten Island. We did our radio show from a beautiful, beautiful vantage point in Staten Island, right on the Atlantic Ocean and the Bay of New York, where they kind of come together. You wouldn't believe there were such beautiful places in New York unless you came here and visited with us, because we are an island. Let's see now, we're 4 islands and 1 peninsula. The peninsula is the Bronx. It's the only thing actually connected to the city of New York. Has the city of New York connected to the mainland of the United States. The rest of us is out to sea. And you might say that if you took a look at the political choices that we make, right? So we will first note that you should be watching us because Brian Kilmeade is doing the Tucker Carlson show, and Brian got very, very nasty the other day about Steve Bannon. Got he must be like in a titty with him. I don't know why Brian would get so nasty about Bannon. He said something about Bannon being fired and writing not nice things in his book and not being whatever. Because Bannon criticized Fox for firing for firing Tucker. I guess they weren't very good friends. You'd think he'd keep his mouth shut about it, right? Whereas if his friend got fired by his boss, I understand he doesn't want to jeopardize his job. Nobody wants anybody to jeopardize their job. I have no idea if there's any matter of principle involved for Brian. I don't think so. So keep your job. But what are you attacking Bannon for? Why can't Bannon attack your network? You like the suits there that much?
Mayor, what exactly did Brian say?
He said Steve Bannon should basically keep his mouth shut because he's under indictment. He was fired by Trump. He wrote nasty things about the Trump family and then was taken back. So I don't know exactly what that means, that he wrote nasty things about the Trump family and took it back. But the whole point is not so much what he said. They were like almost stupid things.
Why? Right.
Yeah, he said it because he said it largely, I think he related it to Bannon's criticism of Fox for firing Tucker Carlson and their attitude of being dictatorial about what people should say, how they should say it, and on the air. So Bannon was critical of that, which I don't know, seems like fair comment. That often is the charge made when a major talent is fired by a network. Not unusual that it's made with regard to Fox. And rarely do you see one of the reporters for the network acting like a 13-year-old cheerleader for the network, which is what he was doing. Yep. And attacking Bannon, that's what it sounded like. It was very, very below the dignity of somebody who considers himself a journalist. And also probably gives you a sense of some of the tension that's going on there at Fox and the sucking up that has to be done. So I'll keep watching for the suck ups. I think suck ups should always be identified, but it's a good reason why you should watch us, because if he does that, you're probably getting the news that Fox wants you to get, not the news that exists. Whereas with us, nobody's telling us what the news that we're going to give you is, or what to discuss, or how to discuss it. We try to give you the news that exists and then have you ask us questions about it. For example, Biden 4 more years, which I think is more than a one-day story. In fact, unfortunately, it could be an everlasting story if he ever should get reelected. Everlasting in that he will do everlasting damage to this country. He's already done substantial damage to it. The kind of damage that I'm not sure any other president has ever done. Yesterday, Mark Siegel, don't think we had the time to show it to you, Mark Siegel, who is a doctor and works for Fox, no objection to Mark at all, very good man. Mark wrote a op-ed piece for the Wall Street Journal, basically saying, yes, there's reason to fear for his fitness. Now, I should tell you that Mark has been very conservative on the subject of Biden's mental condition. In August or September of 2020, when I did a podcast with two doctors who went pretty far with regard to their conclusion that from what they could see, he was demented. Mark took it to the point of he needs an examination, but never went further than that. And slowly, as Biden acted more and more confused, started talking about conversations with people that had been dead, having the conversations long after they died, including his brother and his uncle, started exhibiting this strange behavior when a speech was over and not knowing which way to turn, went to Cambodia and thought it was Colombia, couldn't remember his Secretary of Defense's name or position. He started to realize something it's very interesting. He focuses on something that Dr. Maria has focused on from day one with regard to, and when I say day one, I mean during the campaign, with regard to Biden. So let me give you a little bit of the excerpts of it. You may be a little harder to get it now, this article, but it's in yesterday's Post. There are many people over 80 with the mental and physical ability to lead. Well, we know that. We know there are, but I'm so glad he said that. This is not an attack on old people. This is an attack on old people who have lost a good portion of their brain. Like this is old people with significant mental cell defects, right? Otherwise known as dementia. You should know that the overall term is dementia, of which Alzheimer's is a subpart. And there are other forms of dementia, some of which have specific names like Alzheimer's, and some of which are more generalized, just loss of memory, loss of coherent speech. So only 11% of people Biden's age show signs of significant dementia. So he's in a small group of 11%. He is not showing signs of. He is, I would say, roaring out signs of dementia. He's a neon, flashing neon sign that says, I don't know what the hell I'm thinking, talking about, or doing anymore. That number, however, increases to close to 20% from 85 to 89, which is the age group he'll move toward at the end of his term, second term, if he gets one. There are more subtle signs. Let me read them to you. This all comes out of the DM5, which I have often suggested that you get from the library, or you can probably get excerpts from it online, and it'll give you all the symptoms of the various forms of dementia. And boy, he has almost every one of them. Here are some of them. Periods of concreteness, lacking abstract concepts, confusion. He looks every day. When you see him finish a speech, when is the last time he looked like he knew where he was going? About 3 years ago. Disorientation, well, same thing. Another form of that. Although we have seen him not leaving a speech, but walking along with that guy, giving what appears to be giving him guide points along the way on the White House grounds. We saw him lost in one of the gardens at the White House. We see him confused about where he is. All fits the definition of disorientation. Apparent lapses in judgment. Looking for a dead woman. Loses his temper at the silliest things. And as this article points out, and this is the big takeaway here, only gets worse. Dementia doesn't get you do not get cured from dementia. You can delay somewhat the inevitable with medicines, but it's going to finally get you if you live long enough. And what's missing in order to make a really good analysis of this, other than the physical observation, which after all is a big part of it, what's missing is an MRI, which he has not taken as far as we know. He certainly hasn't shared it with us or the results of it with us. He had at least 2 brain operations on brain aneurysms, and they were repaired surgically, and that increases the risk of long-term cognitive decline. And he does suffer from heart arrhythmia, atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of cognitive problems. So we got every reason why the American people should demand an examination of his mental capacity, and not stand for any of the excuses given by the White House. But it's doing just that. It's standing for the excuses given by the White House. And we have this basic dodo walking around making a fool out of himself and making a fool out of the United States of America, which is completely unacceptable.
Do you think he'll actually debate the Republican nominee?
I think he has to. Isn't there a law that you have to debate?
I don't think there's a law.
I think you have to have 2 debates.
Oh, you have to have 2 because someone pulled out of the third. They only have 2
But
2020, or did they have 3?
We only had 2 last time because of one got washed out in COVID back and forth. Remember, Trump got COVID in the middle of the campaign.
He did, and man, did
they
he
had to put off one debate, and then he tried to reschedule that debate, and Biden snuck out of it. I thought Biden wasn't going to debate last time. I was saying sarcastic things like, "We'll go to your basement and debate with you."
I think I remember that. Yeah,
and we'll all wear masks if we have to. We'll wear special surgical masks so you don't get nervous, or things like that. Or we'd be more than happy to have you debate from a hospital bed, or we'll have IVs right near you just in case you need it. Things like that.
And Mayor, you can't vote for yourself. Not that you would, but in your opinion, who's the best? I mean, obviously, when somebody wins, you make them. You say, of course, they're the best. Who's the best debater in presidential? In your as far as like the best debater, not necessarily if they won or not, but debating.
Well, it isn't a debate. So let's say who is the best at the presentations that are given.
Sure.
It isn't a debate like your high school or college debate.
That's actually good. Yeah, you're right.
It isn't like a debate that we grade in debating class or even in a moot court. Or it's very, very different. I mean, a lot of times the person who wins on debating points lost the debate, and a lot of times the person who won the debate is not determined until a couple of days. There've been more than a few where it came out either even or one person ahead, and then 3 days later some kind of a mistake was discovered, and it blows the whole debate. And sometimes the debate is won not on debating but on mistakes. Like you and I could have a debate, right? And you could out-debate me, just out-debate me. And the night of the debate, everybody's all happy about you. You're excited. And then the next morning, they find out you made a terrible mistake. You said something very wrong. Maybe you indicated that you had no idea what was going on between. You really didn't even know what Taiwan was. You thought Taiwan had something to do with Russia, not China. And they find that out, right? You said something stupid. They look at it. Well, you just lost the debate. Maybe you lost the election. So presidential debates are hard to evaluate from that point of view. Who won or lost a debate is not measurable by debating points, and it's not knowable almost until the election, because then you find out who got the most out of it. But then, just for the fun of it, you can always say, well, based on those. Oh yeah, we got to get that at some point.
What is it? Oh,
Well, everything is
losing
going now.
but we're still good. We're still
we're
on,
still-
and
we are-
nothing has been
Some-
interrupted from
Something
the
is getting
audience's
pulled in this
perspective.
direction here. We're gonna have to get it off the
And
ground.
Mayor, how big do debates? How big of a role? And let's say today, and then give me maybe 30 years ago. How big of a role do the 2 or 3 debates play in a general election? In your opinion?
Different elections, different things, right? The less known the candidates, the more important the debates. So, the less known of the 2 candidates, the more important for that candidate, because they're going to make their impression based on the debate. For these 2 candidates, Biden and Trump, normally the debate would not be that important. They're 2 known commodities. They ran an election against each other that, you could say, if you want to accept the possibility of cheating, even the possibility of cheating, right? Not necessarily, but either one could have won that election. Right?
Sure.
So you could say that either one of them could have won that election. So the debate shouldn't be that important. But given Biden's cognitive situation, I think the debates become vitally important. The last ones were vitally important. And I would say, and the president will not be happy at my answer to this, I would say that Biden won the debates because he didn't lose them. Biden went into those debates with terribly low expectations. Even for me, I expected he was going to have a couple of incidents in the debate where he couldn't think anymore, or couldn't speak anymore, or said some unbelievably stupid thing about his wife or children, or and when he got through the debate without major cognitive issue, that really constituted a victory for him. So that's another thing you have to worry about debates. Sometimes they can be manipulated by expectations. Now, in the long term, had the hard drive existed, right, or had the hard drive even been revealed after the debate, he would have lost the debate. The debate would have become a disaster because he lied during the debate.
He flat out lied.
He made the most provable lie about an enormously important subject of any candidate in any presidential debate, when he said that Trump and I were like agents of the Russian government. In fact, with regard to me, I think he used agent of the Russian government in revealing that hard drive, and then it was proven beyond any doubt, but only accepted 16 months later, that it was not that at all. Now, suppose that had been proven the next day or the day after. If that were the case, then he would have lost a debate. So a lot of winning and losing a debate, it's not high school debating points. It's what's the impact that it has on the race, and how does it bear up under scrutiny within the next couple of days. Once again, if they debate and Biden gets through to the end of it by not fainting, he probably wins the debate at least that night, because they're not going to expect very much from him, and they're going to expect a good performance from Trump. Now, Trump has debated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and he's never really lost a debate. There have been times in which Biden would have won because of expectations, or Hillary the same thing. Although the Hillary debates, I don't remember all 3 of them, but he clearly won them overall. In her case, she was a very poor debater because she has such a nasty demeanor and nasty way and arrogant way of answering things that you end up, whatever she says, not liking her. And Trump can be very charming and funny, and he was at certain points. So I don't think that the debates are a particularly good thing for Trump. He almost can't win them, because to win them, Biden has to not finish, right? I mean, to win the debates and prove to the American people what they believe, the medicines are not going to have to work. And who knows, by the time we get there, maybe the medicines won't work. It only gets worse, and there's over a year until the debates. If I were on the Democrat side, I'd be very worried about that year. That brain is just...
All right. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit, Mayor. Give me a Democrat who you consider, not about the substance, right? You probably disagree with what they're saying, but who on the Democrat side of the aisle, in your opinion, has been a good debater?
Oh, well, Clinton. Pick one up right away. Obama. On the vice presidential level, Harris was awful. Biden was awful.
You said Clinton, Obama, good.
Clinton and Obama were good. We all know that Kennedy was great, right?
Reagan.
He won.
Sorry, Democrats.
You're asking me about Democrats.
Kennedy.
Carter was less than average debater. Not terrible, but less than average. Kennedy was the first debater and excellent debater.
So that's the first television.
Lyndon Johnson, I'm not sure he debated.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Johnson on a debate stage, and I can't see it.
I don't think he should debate. I mean, he would have been terrible.
And then 68 would have been.
And then Nixon ran against Humphrey. And Humphrey was a good debater.
He was?
Humphrey was a good debater, but he was not he wasn't a pleasant person. He was a little bit of a foolish personality.
Did Nixon
talk too much?
Did Nixon do better in the second, in the debates against?
Nixon and Kennedy probably tied all the remaining debates. It was that first debate that Nixon won, that Kennedy won, that set the whole tone. The next three debates would be hard to tell the difference between them. Nixon was an excellent debater, even though he lost in some ways the most famous debate. I don't think he clearly lost another one after that.
Wow.
So
then we get to 72. It's Nixon again. 76.
76. He certainly didn't debate in 76.
He
didn't have to debate in 76, and he didn't run in 76.
Yeah,
he ran in 72. He ran in 68 and 72.
And then 76.
And he won, and he debated in 68, I think.
Yeah.
But he didn't debate in 72.
Oh, he didn't?
He was so far ahead, I don't think he debated McGovern. He didn't have to. That law hadn't been passed yet.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then 76, we had Jimmy Carter.
And Ford debated twice. And
probably not very memorable.
And neither one of them were good debates.
Yeah. Carter versus Ford.
The debates were prosaic, and in a way, Ford won the debates in the same ways that Biden has won, because they really did paint Ford as a fool, which he wasn't, and he turned in a competent performance, and it was enough, really, to have won the first debate. Then he made a mistake in the second debate, or.
You were pretty active in 76. By now, you were pretty active on the political scene.
They believe a mistake. And that kind of lost the debate for him, but I'm not sure it was actually a mistake.
Okay.
The first debate he won, though.
Okay. Wow. 80, we get Reagan. Obviously, Reagan was a great debater.
Reagan won debates going away, meaning he would win them that night. And then as people focused on them more, he'd win them by more and more and more.
That was Carter, Reagan.
Well, because not only did he make good points, but his charm and sarcasm was unbelievable.
Okay. And it came across on television. You're right.
He may have been the best debater.
Okay. So we're getting to it. And then 84, did he debate Mondale?
Oh, sure. It's where he got hurt. The first debate may have been a debate he lost. He wasn't prepared for it. They didn't bother to prepare him. They thought, well, he knew everything, and he looked like he was unprepared. The answers were kind of disjointed and filled with stuff you just fill in when you're not sure of the answer, and also hurt by the fact that people expected such a brilliant performance, and what they got was a mediocre one. So I would say that's a debate he lost to Mondale, and it even raised issues as to his competence and age, And in the second debate, that's when he said, I will not bring up the age issue in this campaign. I will not bring up that my opponent is not sufficiently qualified or mature enough for the job yet.
That you're right. That was
Something like that.
Got a huge. Yes, I remember
And
that.
Even Mondale laughed at it.
Which I'm sure. I mean, it was funny, but tough when you're laughing at your opponent's joke. He's got you on the ropes.
No.
So then we get to 88. We got HW. Do you remember these? HW against the guy with the helmet.
Yeah,
Dukakis.
HW clearly beat Dukakis. Dukakis was a very boring, very issue-oriented kind of.
Now those are some funny SNL skits.
Yeah,
Dukakis.
Dukakis was kind of a nerdy type guy. Had no appeal at all.
I think they overdid the helmet thing. Yeah, it was silly looking. And good for whoever made those commercials, and they really got him. They really got him, but it was the commercial. I think the event itself, I don't know, I wasn't alive at the time, but I felt like it. But then him to put that commercial and really focus in on it, right?
What he put
Genius.
On, what Roger did was put on every program that Dukakis in Congress, military program that he had voted against, and then he said, we'll be left with 2 tanks and a truck.
That's too good.
If you add them all up, now we've got 2 tanks and a truck.
Mayor, based on how you talk about him, if there's one person that I'd want to meet,
if there's
that's
one
no
person
longer
to
with
run
us,
this campaign, and I would feel good that America will be saved, it'd be Roger Ailes. I mean, Roger Ailes
or Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Roger Ailes would be able to outthink all of the Democrats combined times 2. There isn't a Democrat strategist that ever matched Roger. And he actually was very friendly with a lot of them. I mean, he was almost like he would meet with them and talk to them. And
it wasn't like personal. They didn't hate each other.
That guy
it was
Bennett, who he put on radio, television for so long. That guy was a personal friend of his.
If anything, you almost like.
And they ran against each other with Ford and it would have been Reagan and Mondale.
Yeah, 84.
That guy was with Mondale, not Carter. Right.
So let's wrap this up here. So 92, Clinton and HW. Those must have been some interesting debates. Do you remember those?
That's the debate where
Clinton,
where HW lost by looking at his watch.
Oh,
looking like I want to get the hell out of here.
It is funny.
When in fact, I think he wanted to know how much time he had for his answer.
Yeah.
Which, so then you were taught afterwards to do this.
Never wear a watch.
Don't wear it or put it down like that.
I was going to say, yeah.
Or forget the watch. Don't wear it. Use the watch. There are watches in the hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
you can see down there a big screen.
Pick a watch and you see it's 8 o'clock and you're going until 9. And you see now it's 2 minutes to 9. And you only have a little time left. And you got to get your point in.
And then we get to 96. How was Bob Dole as a I feel like I see him and he's just a very serious kind of straight edge guy. Is that true? Bob Dole.
Bob Dole had a tremendous sense of humor.
Oh, wow. Did it come across publicly?
Yeah, Bob Dole did a very good job in that debate, but so did Clinton. I mean, Clinton was an excellent debater also.
And an incumbent president, a lot of things going for him.
Hard to say. I don't remember that debate that well because there was nothing particularly unusual that happened, memorable, except that the 2 guys were both very good debaters.
Okay.
Dole was a very articulate, very smart, knew the issues and also had an interesting way of speaking.
Mm-hmm. And he's got and I remember, I think he passed away relatively recently, a few years ago, maybe.
Oh, yeah, just about 2 years ago.
And that's when I really started reading up on him. Mm-hmm. And what an incredible career and life.
He had a remarkable career.
But
what about our calls now? We're having a great conversation, but we're keeping our people out.
Give us a call. We'll put the number up there on the screen. And
they're gonna think we're not interested.
No, we'll take calls very soon. We'll get the headphones out.
Picture of Hunter that I found.
Give some stories while I set up, man.
Right out of The Godfather. Look at this one. Doesn't that look like Sonny Corleone or something? The column goes back a little bit. It points out that Secretary of State Blinken could very well be part of this. I mean, there are a couple of very interesting entries in the hard drive about Blinken sneaking Hunter into the back of his office and conversing with him over Burisma, which he shouldn't have been doing. It's very, very troubling conduct for then the deputy secretary of state, who by helping to fix the 2020 election, had got himself promoted to Secretary of State. I mean, he did play one of the major roles in putting in the fix, which has now been acknowledged even. And here we've got an article that also goes back that I didn't get a chance to cover about how the whales are getting destroyed by the windmills. So now if you're an environmentalist, who do you care about more, the windmills or the whales? Right? You got to pick. You're going to kill those whales, no doubt about it. In fact, if you put up too many, there are even a couple of whale species that are in danger. So what do you like better, environmentalist? You like the windmills or the whales? I'll tell you who the birds vote for. The birds vote against the windmills because you see those things there? Birds have very small brains. They don't notice that those things are spinning around, and they get right in the middle of them, just like they do airplanes. Now, for some reason in airplanes, they screw up the blades. Here, the blades make bird meat out of them. Let's also say to ourselves, when are the Republicans going to have a hearing so that this evidence that is coming about with regard to Hunter Biden and the big guy who runs the Biden crime family, when is that evidence going to get put out in front of the American people, from the whistleblower, from the guy who was the stenographer, from the woman in Ukraine? I mean, we want to see these witnesses. I mean, they sure didn't hold back witnesses against Trump. I can't imagine why the hell we're holding them back. And if they say we hurt the United States by doing it, you can't hurt the United States much more than it's being hurt. Maybe it shows that we're not as crazy as people think because we're holding him to account. I mean, they would have to assume, the rest of the world would have to assume, that we are a group of foolish, stupid people to have elected this guy, right? I mean, if you saw a prime minister of England in that condition, right? He gets up in the House of Commons and then starts saying that he recalls seeing Roosevelt reading comics on the newspapers, on television, and you knew that television wasn't invented until after, or wasn't present and available until after Roosevelt died, and that it wasn't Roosevelt, it was LaGuardia, and he had it wrong in almost every single respect. What would you think of England, right? And then he would go off to a foreign country and think he's in Colombia when he's in Cambodia, or forget who he just talked to, or forget what he just said, or you would say, what's wrong with those people? Why do they elect a guy who should be in a nursing home with something less than half a brain for prime minister?
Mayor,
yes,
we're ready for your first call when you are. If you could, sir, please let us know your name and where you're calling from.
Oh, this is Tom Murphy calling from Pascagoula, Rhode Island.
Okay, Tom. What do you have
How are
in
you doing,
mind?
Mr. Man?
How are you?
Oh, living through another day. You know how it is.
Good. So tell us.
I had a question for you.
Yes,
I want to know how the government is still prosecuting anybody when all we see is cases where they've been spying on the defense teams and withholding evidence and everything else. I don't see how they're getting any convictions or keeping them.
Well, just what you're saying is, in many cases, that kind of conduct is what we call reversible error, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you spy on the defense, generally your case gets thrown out. I would think any case against Trump would be thrown out because they were spying on him regularly. They were spying on his lawyer, me.
I know.
I'm not his only lawyer they
That's-
were spying on. I mean, that's a violation of the Sixth Amendment. You should be able to throw any case out on him.
Well, that's why I don't like what's happening with the Proud Boys now. I mean, they've already shown that they had emails and everything else. They showed they were spying on the defense team, and the agents were telling other agents to destroy evidence. So I don't understand how they.
Well, the case should be
this
thrown.
continues.
That case should be thrown out for general, for violating due process in so many respects that it's an embarrassment to the federal criminal justice system to maintain it as a prosecution. There is a theory on which you can do that. That was in an opinion whose name I forget, but the justice was Justice Jackson, who wrote that sometimes the number of due process violations can be so great that the prosecution shocks the conscience and therefore should be dismissed. Certainly, some of the J6 cases fit that category with the amount of skullduggery and cheating the government was involved in. Also, I think I read somewhere, and you correct me if any of you who know whether I'm right here, but I thought I read that that in fact there were more FBI agents and operatives inside the Capitol than Proud Boys.
Yeah, I believe that was on the Gateway Pundit in fact, during their trial, and Julie Kelly, I believe, wrote something on this where there was at least 40 FBI agents on the cover there, and Capitol Police and ATF and a few other ones.
Well, I have a text that the government has, because I gave it to them because they never use it. That claims that over 250 Antifa members were there. Now, you put those 250 Antifa members with the FBI agents who outnumber the Proud Boys, I don't know, it may start to have really look like a MAGA rally, but maybe under the cover there, it was really just the opposite.
I think so too, because I remember you were the first one to call out John Sullivan. And
how do you remember that?
Him.
You know, I'm very proud of that, and very few people remember that. I did it that night.
Yes.
Yeah, and also
yes,
I played the tape the next day, and I'm not sure that tape would ever have been played if I didn't do it. And then eventually they put it on CNN and got money for it. But I mean, that tape absolutely convicts John Sullivan of so many crimes that it's laughable. And of course, he's out free with 2 indictments because he was involved in a similar thing in Utah. And then nobody asked, how did it just so happen that he was right there with the perfect kill shot that he was able to take of Ashley Babbitt? I mean, it happened in a split second, and his camera is in exactly the right place at exactly the right time, and it gets it perfectly.
I still remember that you were one of the first few that questioned why did those 3 officers move from their position.
Okay, so now let's look at that one, right? They're standing there guarding the home of or the entrance to the Pelosi suite. And 2 guys or 3, I don't remember, come up to them. One of whom has been identified to me as an Antifa member by a person who was undercover in Antifa. And the other one, probably, but in any event, they wanted to bang on the door to get in. And they had a cordial conversation with the cops. You even heard something about nobody wants to get hurt or something like that. And the cops voluntarily abandoned their post, didn't leave, moved maybe 10 feet away, turned around and faced them, and watched them start breaking the door down, as if it's perfectly okay for you to do this. And then the gun appears.
That's exactly while the SWAT team was coming up the street. They'll be up the stairs. You know, the same time the SWAT team's coming up the stairs, they're busting out the window.
Yeah, and when she gets shot, on her side of the divider, there have to be those 3 cops and about 6 others. And on the other side, right near the cop who did the murder, there were another 4 or 5 cops. And she was unarmed and 6'2".
Mm-hmm.
So had she jumped over the transom or possibly been thrown over, because it looks a little like people are helping her to try to get over or pushing her, she'd have been on the ground very easily handcuffed. I mean, she'd be...
Yeah, not even in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it would have taken 1 cop. There were literally 6 on one side and 6 on the other. And if they didn't want her to go over, why didn't they come over and pull her down? A couple of those cops, if I recall, it looked like they were 6'2", 6'3". They were big guys. I mean, they would have crushed her. I mean, you're supposed to try other forms of force before you blow somebody away. We all know that, right, from all the police cases. They didn't try anything. They just immediately, it almost looked to me a couple of times when I've watched it, and I've watched it 100 times, like they put her up like the kind of thing that you shoot at a county fair.
Yeah.
You know, where they put somebody in a seat and you shoot it and they go in the water. She was like put up, like just put up and boom, away.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that something stirs of the Republicans where they get together and they actually take care of November 2020 and January 6th, because it doesn't seem as though we'll be able to win anything until we expose all the fraud. You know, get together and have all the evidence on the one tent.
Yeah, I think the stolen election and January 6th are 2 things that we have to still do more repair work on, because there still are people that are brainwashed on stolen election, and therefore anyone who says it, they treat them like they're a monster or something. And anybody says anything about January 6th and you're a traitor. And the fact is that you have to have room to talk about this, because these were 2 of the worst con jobs in the history of America. And I think Tucker's main problem was the exposure on January 6th. I think that's what they really got worried about. I think if you expose January 6th, a lot of heads could fall. So they're particularly worried about keeping that scenario together. No matter what, they're going to, discount the evidence that it was an inside job.
Right.
Think of who would have known. Pelosi, right? The majority, our completely disloyal majority leader, who gets most of his income from Red China.
Yeah.
He and the president share in common the fact that they've made more money from Red China than from the U.S. Isn't that interesting? The Republican majority leader and the Democrat president, who disagree on everything, agree on China's not a bad place. I made millions there.
All right, Mayor. We have the phone lines.
Thank you. Could that possibly describe why we cave into China? Oh, no. They wouldn't sell out. They're honest men. That's like Anthony's speech, right? I come here to praise Caesar, not to praise Caesar.
All right, let's take our next call. Can you let us know who you are and where you're calling from?
Brutus and Cassius are honest men.
This is Sherry. I'm from West Virginia.
Hi, Sherry. How are you?
Hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I guess.
What do you have in mind, though?
Possible. Well, I just want to say how much I like watching you.
Thank you.
And
aren't you nice? Thank you.
Yeah. And sorry about the way New York is. I mean, things were good when you were in there.
Well, thank you for saying that, because I do deserve sympathy for that. I do. I worked so hard, and look what they did to it,
I know. When are you going to get out of there?
Oh, that's an interesting question, isn't it? It just might happen.
Well, I know you get down to Palm Beach a lot.
I do. I go to Palm Beach. I go to Palm Beach about a third of the winter, I would say.
Okay.
And the fact that Trump is there has something to do with it too.
Yeah. Well, I've got a friend that I've met online. She does live shows on Facebook, and she was a journalist. But she says, well, I think it's funny. She always says Cooper makes big bucks because he tells lies, and she says I don't make anything because I tell the truth. But she's having a heck of a time. I mean, Facebook has canned her. She was making money on Facebook, and they just canned her for making any money.
Why?
And then just a couple of days, well, she's down there at the Trump, flag waving. She was there today. I mean,
And they took her off?
they fixed it so that she could no longer, make any reels and make money or anything like that. But just a couple of days ago, she said she got an email from Meta and said that they were going to cancel her Facebook altogether. So she goes, I don't know what I'm going to do.
What
And
did
I
she
keep-
do? Tell me the worst thing she did from their point of view, if you know.
Well, I watch her lives all the time, and she just tells the truth.
Well, who is it?
She just tells the truth. Like I said, she's a journalist, and she researches a lot, and she knows what's going on.
What's her name?
And
How would we find her?
Jill.
Jill?
Well, that's why one reason I called you, because she's in Juneau. She was in Fort Lauderdale. She originally was from Pennsylvania. She worked for the Pittsburgh Gazette, I believe. And then she moved to New York for a while, and she worked for some TV station, had all the kids programs, and she saw what was going on there with kids, and they're not real good. And then she went to Florida, and I thought, I keep telling her every time you're down there, I said, go find him, go find him, go interview Rudy. I mean,
that would have been good. I would have done that. I'd have done that.
Yeah, she's interviewed Flynn. She's pretty good friends, now with Roger Stone.
Sherry, I don't mean to change topics on you, but real quick, because you are in West Virginia, and Governor Jim Justice has just announced that he will be taking on Democrat Senator Joe Manchin in what will be one of the most hotly contested seats of the cycle. In your expert opinion as a West Virginian, how do you see that race shaking out?
Well, I think for the most part, West Virginia is Trump country, and we want Manchin out. But we're not real crazy about Jim Justice either.
Really?
Yeah.
Now tell me why.
Just kind of the way he does things. We're just almost, it's like people, I think, don't trust him because he was a Democrat until Trump got in, and then he changed to being a Republican.
I see.
And then when Biden got in, he just, if you listen to him talk and stuff, it's like he's being careful what he's saying, because I don't think he wants to tick people off.
I see. I see. Well, that's interesting. We'll have to look at that very carefully.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Who would you vote for, though, if you had to make a choice?
Well, you mean for our for West Virginia?
For the Senate race?
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the younger ones. I'm kind of watching them.
Okay. Well, good. Well, let's see who comes along.
Well, let's see what happens. Yeah. Thank you for the call, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry.
And we're gonna get our commercial in.
Okay.
And tomorrow,
time for a commercial break.
Tomorrow we'll have Kirk Elliott, PhD, double PhD, on the program. So as you watch this, think about what questions you may have for him.
Faith and family, freedom and finance are four things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver. while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. So we'll talk a little about how the races are going now, right?
All right, are we done with calls?
No. I'm not.
We're back on. Thanks for joining us. We will call in. We're going to try and take a couple more calls.
Good.
So give us a call. You're on America's Mayor Live. We're back on, Mayor.
Okay, back with America's Mayor Live on the.
Let's go to Dayton.
On
Dayton,
the
Ohio. Are you there?
Third
I'm
night.
here.
Hello,
Hi,
how are
Rudy.
you? How are you?
I'm actually really glad you're on No Tucker tonight. So, or No Tucker ever.
Well,
So
he'll
I
be
was
back
looking
somewhere.
for something to watch.
How did you find
So it was
America's
nice to see you.
How did you find America's Mayor Live? Did you find it this week since we no longer have Tucker? It helps us as we learn about how our audience is finding
I
it.
did. Well, I usually watch Tucker. Well, I was a faithful Tucker.
So
I
will
was
we.
faithful to watching Tucker every night. So yes, I was trying to find something to watch, and I watch all of your shows on Rumple.
Well, thank
So-
you. We're
But
on
it was
every
great.
night. We're
I have
on.
a question. I do have a question for you, real quick.
Please.
What can we do for you to help our country? What would you recommend us to do?
I would recommend your joining the Republican Party or joining an organization that's going to help with the 2024 election. Finding one in your area or one nationally, or and if you want help, write into us and we'll give you some help if you tell you where you are. I think we need a lot of people. That's the way people ask me, how do you do election integrity? And you have the right people in the right place at the right time to do election integrity, which means you need a lot of people. And so we need a lot of volunteers to do that, and also to take advantage of the voting period that they now create before the election in many states that Republicans don't use. We should use them because we create like bottle jams, which the Democrats can take advantage of on election day. They know if they can jam up machines on election day, they can deprive us of votes. So I think any of us that can vote before election day and then help out on election day, and then we're going to get 2 or 3 extra votes. So I'm going to try to encourage people to join organizations and get involved in policing the ballot, getting people out to vote, making sure people vote early. If there are 10 voting days in a state, make sure that all 10 days are utilized by Republicans, not just Democrats. We shouldn't go into the election day so far behind that it's like we have to desperately play catch up. Okay.
Great advice.
Well,
thank you for doing
Thank you. I thank you for
everything you do.
So tell your friends where to get us. We're working on trying to make
Thank
it
you so much.
easier. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the call.
Will do. Thank you. You have a good.
Wow, what a nice call.
So now it's time to tell you that you got to get your My Pillows. You got to get your My Pillows, whether it's going to be the 2.0 beautiful new pillowcases and sheets and things like that, or it's going to be mattresses, or it's going to be robes, or it's going to be beautiful, wonderful pillows, or a Mother's Day gift with a big gift package. It's time to, you need them, get them, and help support the movement. I mean, that's the way they do it, right? They boycott and they buy from themselves, and that's the way we have to do it so that we have money available on our side to do the things that need to be done, because all these things that we're talking about, including this voter integrity thing, although you might think it's all volunteers, you still got to bring in professionals, and you got to bring in equipment and machines and computers and analysis. It isn't just done like you just go inspect. You first do a study of where the inspections are necessary, and you try and develop technology to help you so that you can maximize your outreach. Nothing is done simply nowadays. And if it is, then your opponent does it better than you, because he'll have a more sophisticated way to reach a lot more people than you do in the same amount of time. So we need volunteers. We need very bright people. We need very dedicated people. We need all of that in order to win what I think many regard as the most important election of our lifetime. One of the most important. Now, the governor of New York wants to weed out tobacco in New York and bring in marijuana. There must be something wrong with me, huh? We got a mayor and a governor who are like big fans of marijuana because they want to make a lot of money on marijuana. Legally, I guess. I want to show you how silly Democrats are, and why they shouldn't be running anything having to do with money or business, and why they bankrupt us and ruin us and make poor people poorer. There are now 5 illegal marijuana shops in the city of New York, from which New York City derives taxes and possibly fees. There are 1,200 illegal ones from which they derive nothing. And 99% of the marijuana is purchased there. So yes, they're encouraging the use of marijuana, but no, they're not encouraging the use of marijuana bought from a legal licensed store from which revenue will be gained by the city. This is either a good or a bad idea, this marijuana, in order to enhance revenues. I consider it a bad idea. But the ones implementing it think it's a good idea, except the Democrats have got 2 problems. They've got the wrong ideas. They basically borrow, and don't know it in many cases, communist ideas. But they don't know how to execute them, because they're not stupid. They're unrealistic. Their ideologies are socialism is unrealistic. Socialism doesn't bear the scrutiny of heavy logic. We've been through that. Basically you get paid. You work as much or not as much as you want, and you get paid based on how much you need, not how much you work. People quickly get tired of that. Just like they're going to get tired of this weed thing, where right now it would be close to impossible for legitimate weed, if there is such a thing, or weed sold in stores where the city and state derive, to catch up. They're down, 400 to 1 right now. And these guys have already acquired weapons, tough guys to take care of them. I mean, they've taken on aspects of organized crime. So once again, the Democrats, Adams and Hochul, have dug a hole that is going to be very hard to get out of unless you blow your way out of it with law enforcement, which they are always incapable of using properly. Tomorrow night, we're going to have Kirk Elliott on. I know Ted mentioned that, but Kirk is a PhD, and his team, they're ready to help you navigate the waters with regard to precious metal at a time in which there's going to be a lot of problems, and you'll be able to talk. Tomorrow night, we're going to see if we can arrange a couple of calls for you with Kirk. You can call it 720-605-3900, and you can tell them that Rudy sent you, and they'll give you great advice on how you can protect yourself at this very, very difficult period of time. So are we into? We're just about into soccer time.
As you asked, we just entered soccer time.
But we should have we should get a whistle.
We gotta have a whistle. Yes, that's a good idea. We need a whistle sound,
and then a final whistle,
and then a final horn. We gotta get the drum roll.
Yeah,
let's come up. We have 8 areas where we can put sound.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need like a beep or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that'll be our next thing. I feel like every week we
add something new.
We really do.
We add something new.
So, Mayor, what do you make of the news of the recent polling showing that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is at 19%? That's a fifth of the vote, and Joe Biden's at 62. So 62 to 19 for a sitting president.
I think it's a function of how weak Biden is and a function of how the Kennedy name is still has adherence within the Democrat Party. Obviously, 20 years ago, that 19% probably would have been 40, but that's still a very impressive number for someone who has been really rather low key for a long time.
Was RFK, if the unfortunate did not happen, was he on his way to the presidency? Or would it have been a close race in
surely would have been
68?
It surely would have been a close race with Humphrey, and not by any means guaranteed that even though he beat him in the night that he died, he beat him in the California primary, he was still behind him by a number of electoral votes, which the Republicans felt they're going to win everything else. I mean, the Democrats felt for Kennedy, felt that they were going to win everything remaining and that those states could be flipped. Now, that's a tall order. I don't know if Humphrey wouldn't have been elected. Had Humphrey been elected, had Humphrey been nominated as he was, even with Kennedy there, he probably would have been defeated even more soundly than he was by Nixon, because there'd have been another month and a half of very contentious campaigning. So in some ways, Kennedy dying not only assured Humphrey the presidential nomination, but sort of took away an irritant to voting for him. Although I don't know if the Kennedy voters, if many of them voted for Humphrey, they may have stayed home, which also then helped Nixon. The interesting thing is, had Kennedy run against Nixon, what would have happened? That would have been a heck of a rematch. I don't know. I don't think any of us know.
Now that would have been interesting. Was RFK?
I tend to think Kennedy would have won because he would come in with a tremendous amount of motivation, having taken out, in essence, the incumbent administration, Democratic administration. On the other hand, he would have had a seriously split Democratic Party. So I don't know, but you can make either argument, and you'll never know.
You'll never know.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and Mayor, do you make anything of the fact that Kennedy right now is actually polling better against Biden than DeSantis is polling against Trump? Make anything of it, or are they just two different primaries and they're kind of two of their own different?
No, they're not two different primaries. I mean, what you make of it is that Kennedy's quite a remarkable candidate. Pence has been at it for some time, and that's all. And he had been higher, and he came down.
DeSantis.
So Kennedy getting to this 19 so fast, yeah, that's impressive. And the real question is, how much more room is there to grow? Can he get to 25? Can he get to 30? Can he get to 35?
Is there a ceiling? Basically,
I don't know. I mean, the Kennedys haven't run in so long. There's no way of knowing.
But if you think Kennedy, right? You say it, Kennedy Democrat. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, but there are a lot more anti-Kennedy Democrats now than there ever were before. That's
a good point. They don't. Yes.
They see Kennedy Democrat as somewhat conservative, and from my point of view, they're really not conservative. They're just not Yahoo liberals.
Yeah.
And they are generally intelligent people who reason rather than emote.
What does RFK Jr. Do you know what his thoughts? Has he said anything about Trump over the years? Do you know where he really?
Well, in his book, he's rather he's not overly either way.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's my question.
Seems
Right?
to evaluate Trump pretty practically. Doesn't seem to he doesn't seem to suffer from Trump derangement.
Yes, that's. I guess that was my
Right,
question.
right.
The silliness. You can disagree with them
No,
on
no,
policy.
I
and
didn't
stuff.
detect that in his
Okay.
book. I don't know him that well, after all, but it is from his book that I detect a lot. And I think, I think, although I think he believes that Trump was a much better president than Biden, although probably disagreed with Trump on many, many things, particularly environmental.
And I'm just curious if you'll go into the gutter like Biden does, right? Accusing Trump of being a racist and, Charlottesville and all this nonsense. I'm curious if
Well, I don't know
Kennedy.
if he will, but the party will, no matter what. I mean, they're not capable. The party is not capable of running a fair, honest, decent campaign. And then, of course, the press that will do it for them if they don't.
And Mayor, on the Republican side, you've spent, we had a few interviews now with Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek, it is actually pronounced Vivek like cake, not Vivek. So Vivek Ramaswamy, spent some time with him. What are your kind of your thoughts on the gentleman?
Extremely impressed. He's a very smart young man. He's running a very good race in the sense of informing and educating and helping the Republicans develop a coherent message. I don't think he's going to win. I don't just think he's going to win. I know he's not going to win. I wouldn't say that to his face, I guess, because I don't want to discourage him. You always need hope, and you always have hope. Let's face it. I'm probably wrong to say that he has no chance of winning. But the reality is this was a very, very good exercise for him. I mean, nobody knew who he is. Now the country knows who he is and is impressed, or at least those who look at the world the way he does. And he made quite a good impression. He did the things that you have to do on a first run if you don't win, which is to make it help you.
We put some chat up to end the show here, Mayor. And what is your closing message on what's been a very busy news week? I feel like we're saying that every week, and ahead of what will be hopefully a good Friday for everybody.
Well, I think the best thing to realize is you can take care of some of that impatience with the idea that we've come to the point where the elections have finally opened. We're going to start seeing, although we'll still see nasty shots and personal shots and probably far more than we need or want, but we're going to start seeing debates on the issues now. And one of the issues is Joe Biden an incompetent mentally for that office? And that has to be debated, and it has to be put before the American people. Well, I think we had a very, very good night. I think we had lots of people tuning in, and I hope we got a lot of former Tucker Carlson people. We will keep on top of where he is. We're going to let you know right away where he is, even if he's on exactly up against us. Then maybe we'll change our spot. I mean, he's going to be a dynamite when he comes back. But until then, listen to us. I think you can count on us to be as equally as straightforward and honest as Tucker is. Slightly different political positions, not on domestic policy, not on party allegiance or Trump, probably somewhat on foreign policy. I tend to be a little more, I surely don't want to call myself an interventionist, but I tend to be, have a shorter attention span or a shorter reaction time for situations where I feel that our national security is in jeopardy and military action is necessary. But I do understand the value of his points with regard to the wars we have engaged in over the last 30 to 40 years, and the very many Americans who will be using, in part, not having thought out what the purpose of the war is. That's a big contribution. And one of the biggest contributions that he's made, he was in the process of making, and that is revealing January 6th and how it was exaggerated only one way. So I want to thank you very much for listening in. I want you to stay tuned with us on rudygiulianics.com, where you can get our podcast, the recent one, the earlier ones, and you can get a way of access onto these shows. So that's a good spot to start from. Rudy Giuliani, CS.com. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock.